What a dramatic 35 minutes of football we have just had. At half-time here at Croke Park, Kerry leading Dublin by 2 goals and 8 points to 9 points. Let's see what Pat Spillane, Kieran Whelan and Joe Brolly have made of all that. Pat, at the beginning of the half, we were sitting in front of you and turning around and saying to you, Pat, I think you're going to get skinned here today.
Yeah.
And you're leading the match at half-time.
You obviously would have had to change the script after 25 minutes because for the first 25 minutes, there was only one team playing, and that was the Dubs. Faster, fitter, pace was very decisive, first every ball, dominating the game. And then something happened with Kerry, and for the first time they said, let's ask questions about the Dubs. Let's stop allowing the Dubs. If you sit back and give them the kick-outs, give them the sweeper, give them the extra man, let them play in their terms, let them play on the front foot like last year's Ireland, Dublin will destroy you. So for the last 11 minutes, what did they do? They pushed up on the kick-out, they contested everything, they asked questions of Dubs, they ran at the Dubs. And it wasn't just one-trick pony stuff sometimes into the high ball, you know, where Gainey is having an absolutely superb game. Donaghy came out the field, Gooch came out the field, it's cute, and also Paul Murphy man-marking Kieran Kilkenny, who was the man of the match. So the last 10 minutes, 12 minutes, from a Kerry point of view, 2 goals and 3 points to no score. It was superb. But they're at least, these lads, I asked one question, sorry Joe, I asked one question of Kerry at the start of the game, that unlike last year, that they come off the field saying, we took the game to the Dubs. For the last 12 minutes, they took the game to the Dubs.
We thought, Kieran Whelan, that right now we'd be sitting here talking about A, Dublin in the All-Ireland final against Mayo, and B, whatever happened to Kerry football.
Absolutely, Michael. It's not good for the old ticker, and I think you're the safest in that regard. But that last 11 minutes obviously has asked Dublin serious questions. But listen, it's like we said before the game. They had to break the game down nearly into quarters. They didn't press the kick out at the start. They wanted to settle into this game. They put Aidan O'Mahony back. But then they didn't just press up in the kick-outs. They put 12 men up in the kick-outs, and they left the Dublin forwards back here, and the hands up in the air, and that was pre-planned. That was breaking down the game into quarters and saying at a particular point in time, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to rattle the Dubs. People probably expect them to do it in the first 5-10 minutes. They didn't do that, and that is the biggest. And if you do something in training, if you're working on something in training, and it comes off, all of a sudden the energy and the belief that players get from that, they say, do you know what? This now is working. This has worked, and for the last 11 minutes, I'd say Jim Gavin is delighted to get the lads into the dressing room because Dublin were on the ropes there.
Oh, they were.
They can get in now. They're only 5 points down. They're not out of it.
Kerry were so hesitant to start with, and you could see they were playing with fear. And Dublin were strolling, but they were strolling. They weren't in high gear. There's not much happening inside for Dublin. Bernard Brogan's ineffectual, and yet Dublin were turning over all the Kerry kickouts. The catalyst was a disastrous kick-out. I'm not sure what Stephen was thinking of, because when everybody's covered there, you don't kick a short one, you kick it long, because they were doing very well in the middle of the field. And that was the catalyst. And as Kieran says, you could feel the energy surging through the Kerry boys. Colin Cooper remembering that he's one of the greatest players to play the game. Gainey, of course, has been excellent all through. He's just a pure, cool poacher. But
well,
I mean, there it is now, and Dublin now this has been the biggest test ever, because Kerry are not the type of team to give up 5-point leads.
That Kieran, as Joe was saying, you know, you can talk about tactics up and down the field, but it was a kick out from Stephen Compton that got you into trouble.
Yeah, but it was, as I said, it was a particular point in the game, and we see now when you look at it from behind the goal, you see that Kerry left a couple of the Dublin forwards. They were, you know, see a goal short. Obviously, it's in, and they're in a great position, and it's a great little flick by Donncha Walsh and balls in the back of the net. But when you look at it from behind the goal, you have three Dublin forwards left isolated. You have 12 lads. They pushed up zonally. They didn't push up man-on-man. They pushed right up. They had their hands in the air. They said, what are you going to do here? And forced Cluxon into the mistake. And really the only option Cluxon in that scenario was kick it long. And Dublin, I have to say, you have to give Fitzmaurice huge credit tactically, because you know, that put them under significant pressure.
You say that now, Kieran, but if Cluxon had kicked that ball long, none of this would have happened. And
Dublin had an option,
but the consequence of that was... But John, on a second, the consequence of that was that his kick-out collapsed. The next kick-out was on the sideline.
You know what I think? Fitzmaurice has sat down and he saw in the Donegal game, he saw Cluxon popping balls to that corner. He's done it a few times this year, and I'd say then listen...
That wasn't Stephen's hands. That was one to give long.
Who will complete the pairing for this year's All-Ireland football final? That issue, hopefully, will be resolved after the break.
Umpire, here, look where he comes to. Perfect. And he's in no doubt whatsoever.
You got to feel his position as a right. It's inconclusive, very hard to tell whether the full ball was over the line. you know, from that angle. But you got, if he's in that position and look where he is,
I think while the pictures
Unless
are
he left his glasses
inconclusive,
at home.
Michael, you will have to say the positioning of the umpire on the goal line
excellent,
was
yeah.
absolutely excellent. So he must have been convinced. But you know, we were in this position last year about Stephen Cluxton. You trace your mind back to the drawn game against Mayo, when Mayo pushed up in Cluxton's kickouts. And not alone did Cluxton's kickouts go bad, but Cluxton suffers meltdown, and when Cluxton goes into meltdown, that meltdown seems to permeate through the whole team. Because when Cluxton is confident and finding his man, Dublin play with a confidence
rhythm, you know.
When Cluxton is
Somebody who played with
lacking
Stephen
confidence.
Cluxton, what do you say to that?
Well, what can
He's
you say?
agreeing with me.
Listen,
He wants to say yes.
Yeah, like he made a mistake on the kick out. As I said, he went short to the corner, but Kerry obviously put them under pressure, and that's gives them energy. I think the crowd feed off that. It's been a huge part of the Dublin Kerry games for the last few years. They've been the one team that have caused Dublin trouble on their kick out. And as I said before the game, like Dublin got 111 of their scores against Donegal from kick outs. So like a lot of the scores originate from kick outs. But the other fact, the other point I will make, Michael, is that the Kerry kick out, Kerry are struggling on their own kick out.
Very much.
3 Dublin points came from their own kick out. And when Brian Kelly's putting the ball down, the movement, they have an extra man back there. The movement was pretty poor, I have to say, for the Kerry
There's a
kick
huge
out.
psychological pressure on someone like Stephen Cluxton because he is the man. Everyone talks about him. He's a cult figure in Dublin and he's a team leader. So there is a huge psychological pressure. And when it's stripped away, he looked so self-conscious out there after the first goal. And you do feel sorry for the man.
Sure.
But let's
Because
also make a point.
it's such a public implosion.
Let's also make a point, though, that who's missing from last year? Number 3, The Rock. Rory O'Carroll, a superb fullback. Would he have been manning the square for the first goal? Possibly. Would he be comfortable under the high
I'm
ball?
not sure anything can be done.
We'll just have to say, Davy Byrne, a rookie, inexperienced. Paul Ganey has taken him for 1 goal and 3 points. And you would have to say that in general, when the ball comes in, that Kerry full forward line, that Kerry full forward line has the beating of the Dublin full back line.
This was the question about the Dublin team, was the full back line.
Kerry have their 2 goals. Dublin haven't scored since the 24th minute. And now it's David Moran who's just held up John Small, has a yellow card against him. Kieran Kilkenny. Paul Murphy did a brilliant job on him, but he's not near him at the moment. It's Aidan O'Mahony as Kieran Kilkenny sets off, and that one has gone a mile wide. And that's not a good start. Wide number 6, not a good start for Dublin.
Not a good start, a good opportunity. That time for Kerry Kilkenny, got away from Aidan O'Mahony. Just lacked a little bit of composure. It kind of, in some respects, sums up his game today. He hasn't played as well as he can be up to now, but there's always that threat there.
Now, Kelly, as the lads were saying in studio, the Kerry kick-out has been a problem. They've won 7 out of 15. James McCarthy. Dane Rock trying to show the referee that he was being held by Mark Griffin. John Small. And off he goes away from Donegal Walsh. There's help from Brian Fenton. Fenton caught, free in.
Just interesting.
5 indeed. 5 in succession. First of the second half for Dublin. Yes, by 4.
Yeah, that should settle them, I think. It's probably around the 23rd minute of the first half since they last scored.
All about the bounce that Davy Byrne caught. Kieran Donaghy never going to be caught. Cian O'Sullivan there with him. Darren O'Sullivan was caught waiting by Michael Darragh McCauley. Brian Fenton. Kerry have scored 2-8. 2-10 is the most Dublin have conceded in the championship this year. Davy Byrne is screaming for the ball, and Diarmuid Connolly finally spots it. Now Bernard Brogan. Brogan with the fist, and over that goes. 2 in a row. And they're eating into that Kerry cushion.
Very much so, and you've got to credit Michael Darragh McCauley that time. A wonderful intercept at the far side of the pitch. Beautiful pass out. Good finish that time by Brogan. Hasn't been in the game as much as he would have liked to. Just going back to what some of the boys were saying at halftime, Kerry filtered an awful lot of the anxiety from their system, and they basically replaced, you know, earlier than that they had replaced their natural instincts somewhat with conservatism, but they've taken the chains off. They're playing good football.
Darren O'Sullivan down injured, and I'm not sure how fit he is in terms of continuing. He was helped back to his feet, out of picture by two of the Kerry backroom staff. They continue the attack. Kieran Donaghy, wrong sort of ball in for him. James McCarthy there with him, and that's a free out. Kerry are getting ready to bring Stephen O'Brien in. And I wonder, is it for Darren O'Sullivan? It is. Darren O'Sullivan gone off, Stephen O'Brien his replacement, and that's a blow, no question. He's got a very heavy strapping issue, what may have seen there on his left thigh.
Yes, I think he's a player who has had a lot of problems with hamstring over the years, and maybe that incident in the first half where he ended up in the net, that may have contributed to it.
John Small. No way past Peter Crowley. Kevin McManaman. That's for Dean Rock, and well done by Mark Griffin. Wonderful defending. Colm Cooper. Aidan O'Mahony, 36 years young. Look at Kieran Donaghy playing as a fullback. Dermot Connolly has gone down injured. Something happened off the ball.
Yeah, I think Colm Cooper and himself, Colm Cooper, strangely enough, back in that position, had a little tangle, but Connolly is still on the ground, in around his own 45-metre line.
Kerry play on with Killian Young. There's a gap, but Davy Byrne tries to close it. Pass through wasn't good enough, when we've seen on both sides some really good reading of what the opponents are going to do with their foot passes, particularly. That time it was Johnny Cooper. Now it's Dean Rock. There's space in front of him. Paul Murphy tries to close the gap with Dean Rock, and then Aidan O'Mahony there too, and Dean Rock slots it over the bar. 3 in a row for the All-Ireland champions, and they're right back breathing down the Kerry necks again.
Wonderful intercept again in the back line, but great counter-attacking from Dublin. Rock took on the responsibility.
Here's Stephen O'Brien. He's a brilliant carrier of the football, and he's drawn a foul off John Small, who has a yellow card against him, remember, like Philly McMahon from the first half.
Yeah, the referee is looking at his boot this time, and he's just ticking John Small. Certainly, I think he's on his last warning at this stage.
Colm Cooper. That sort of stuff not welcome, but it won't put the vastly experienced and hugely talented Colm Cooper off, and that has sailed over. First of the second half for Kerry.
Confident strike that time by Colm Cooper, but certainly it's been a very refreshing approach from both sides.
Cluxton going long, and it missed Anthony Marr, not Kieran Kilkenny, and now off goes Dermot Connolly. Kerry converge towards it. Bernard Brogan is there, and Connolly just dinking it wide, looking at up the field. Referee has given Dublin a free. Is it David Moran and Michael Darragh Macaulay?
Yeah, just going back to Kerry for a moment, Darragh, like, certainly they've been somewhat innovative tactically. I thought earlier on they were somewhat one-dimensional in putting a lot of high ball into the square, but they varied it around very well as the half went on.
James McCarthy. Kerry leaving 3 forwards up John Small. They have plenty of defenders. That was a clear pullback by Aidan O'Mahony on John Small.
Yes, Small drifted in on the blind side that time, in behind the Kerry defence. Aidan O'Mahony didn't spot it, but once more, I think Small should have been tracked by one of the Kerry forwards. This is...
And Dean Rock punishes the indiscipline in the Kerry defence. Let's go down to the line and hear from Desi Dolan.
Yeah, let's watch Brian Kelly's kickouts. Anytime he goes long, he's under pressure. Dublin with everything. He's trying to go short as much as possible to retain possession.
Shane Enright. Killian Young. And off he goes. He's done this several times in the match. On one occasion in the first half, it led to a point. Is there a score at the end of it? David Moran, Michael Darragh Macaulay there with it, hit him hard. Paul Murphy is there. Murphy trying to jink his way through, and Murphy, oh, it hit the wrong side of the post. It hit the wrong side of the post, and it's a wide.
I think a lot of the Kerry players are looking for a 45 in that case. I thought that it came off to a Dublin defender. Referee thought otherwise.
Dublin going long and winning their own ball off the Cluxton kick-out. Michael Darragh Macaulay. Dean Rock and Bernard Brogan the furthest forward. Here's Kevin McMenamin. Here's McMenamin again. He has a thing about that goal when he's playing Kerry, and that's gone wide though.
Young, remember a moment ago, Killian Young was down, initiating attack for Kerry. That time he got back, remarkable energy. They put McMenamin off balance.
Paddy Andrews is on to the Dublin team, and it's Paul Flynn who goes off.
Well, Flynn, as I said earlier in the first half, it hadn't been one of his better days. Normally he's so effective, not alone as a score-getter, but as somebody who does immense work around the middle.
The referee has actually given a 45 while you were watching that substitution. It was a strong case made by Kevin McMenamin that the ball wasn't called as a wide. It came last off a Kerry player.
Yeah, but again, it was one of these signals that has been somewhat indecisive. It's not the first time today that we have seen that.
This to get back to within a point. There's hardly a breath of wind around. Dean Rock made good contact with it. It's really good place kicking. It's of the highest quality, the highest caliber.
He's been very impressive, consistently brilliant with his kicks, either from the ground or from his hands.
Killian Young. Mark Griffin. Now, Dublin have pretty much, well, but everybody behind the ball. Bernard Brogan has stayed forward. Here's David Moran. It's going to take quite an effort to stop him, and there were 3 Dublin players around it. Dublin have lots of bodies back, but what exactly are they doing as Stephen O'Brien tries to cut a way through? Well, what they were doing, and one of them was Cian O'Sullivan. And now they've got to attack quickly. Kevin McMenamin. Killian Young in front of him. McMenamin still going in towards Bernard Brogan. Brogan trying to turn away from Tadhg Morley. Can't do it. No way through. The door slammed right in his face.
Great defending that time by Tadhg Morley, must be said. Brogan, though, had no support up. Dublin are putting so many players back into their own defence at the moment that maybe they're just not getting enough players up on counter-attacks.
Here's James McCarthy. It's gone up a notch. Kieran Donaghy, mistake's been made. Now it's Colm Cooper. They've scored once in the second half. A slip from Johnny Cooper. Colm Cooper caught by Stephen Cluxton right under the crossbar. Cooper should have scored. Off goes Brian Fenton. And that's a foul.
Well, that's a foul, but what a game we have got at the moment. Wonderful comeback from Dublin. You know, they have been calm and measured in everything they have done in the second half. They've shown no sign of panic, but there has been a combative hunger from both sides throughout this half.
Yellow card for Kieran Donaghy, and I think while you were looking at that, he made a signal towards the sideline to say that he wanted to come off. James McCarthy, one between them. Dublin are getting Paul Mannion ready. Michael Darragh Macaulay. That 5-point half-time advantage that Kerry had has been whittled back to the bare minimum. Brian Fenton. No pressure on him. They're level. 6 out of the last 7 points have been scored by Dublin.
What a wonderful score that time. Beautiful pass, but who was involved with it? Kevin McManaman. Beautiful diagonal pass, but the composure of Fenton, a young man who came onto the scene last year. That's some score.
Now there's some stuff going on off the ball. Well, the ball isn't even back in play. Kieran Donaghy is still on the field. Paul Mannion has come in for John Small.
Yeah, there's all kinds of shenanigans going on. I think Kieran Donaghy, in fairness, is kind of suffering with a groin injury. As you said, Dara, he had earlier signalled that he wanted to come off. The linesman, I think, has signalled that he wants to kind of allow, maybe, I think it is it James O'Donoghue to come in?
Yeah, James O'Donoghue on for the injured Kieran Donaghy.
I think, as the boys were saying earlier, half-time came at the wrong time for Kerry in some respect. I found it very difficult to get up to the same rhythm and tempo as they did coming into half-time.
Here is James O'Donoghue. Oof. Caught just after he played the ball by Dean Rock. David Moran. Paul Murphy. Paul Gainey is the furthest forward. Peter Crowley now. James O'Donoghue. Ideally, from a Kerry perspective, you'd like to see him in close to the Dublin goal, but he's doing a different job just at the moment. Got rid of it to Colm Cooper. Same for him. This is Tadhg Morley. Is there a point in the Temple no man? Tadhg Morley wide. And they've been pretty efficient in front of the post. That's only their 4th wide, but 2 have come in the second half. Now, Barry John Keane is coming in for Donncha Walsh.
Yeah, it must be said, though, in that particular passage of play, there was unremitting pressure applied by the Dublin defence. The likes of Cooper wasn't able to get off his shot, had to eventually, you know, when it eventually came, it was from a very difficult angle.
It's 10 minutes since Kerry last scored. James McCarthy. Davy Byrne. Byrne really got his foot through that. Banged it wide, though.
Panicked a little bit on that one there. Connolly had made a nice run, was in a good position to receive the pass had it been seen. And kind of a senseless wide in many respects.
Well, that's safer for Kerry, that kick out from Brian Kelly. Does sap the energy having to work it up the field. Shane Enright. Barry John Keane. Enright wants it again. And why not whack it into Paul Gainey, but he's been marked by Johnny Cooper. And Barry John Keane, oh wow. But you don't need to play the ball in close to goal when you can do that. He's only on the field about a minute. That's a stunner. Kerry go back ahead, just nudge in front.
Yeah, as I said a couple of times already, he took responsibility that time. Difficult angle, no movement in front of him. Gainey was a possibility for him, but he was in a difficult position. Wonderful score.
Oh, Aidan O'Mahony and Philly McMahon.
Certainly Philly McMahon felt the full brunt of that belt.
Aidan O'Mahony probably felt it too, but anyway, it's Colm Cooper. Tadhg Morley. That's for Peter Crowley. Cian O'Sullivan has it. Crowley fouled him.
Yeah, but just notice again with the Dublin team, they're getting so many men back behind the ball at the moment. I think Kevin McManaman this half has gone from centre-half forward position into the full forward line. Thought he was used very effectively further out the field in the first half, but the tactics have been changed somewhat at half-time.
Brian Fenton. Bad ball. Read by Aidan O'Mahony. Brian O'Biogli, the 19-year-old from Gaeltacht, is going to come in for Kerry. foul on David Moore by Brian Fenton. Colin Cooper. James O'Donoghue. Barry John Keane. Back with O'Donoghue. Colin Cooper sizing up the options. Only Paul Gainey in front of him, and Cooper a wild swing of the right boot at it, very unlike him, but he was put under pressure.
Well, your point exactly there. There was nobody in front of him to give the ball to, and he had to just have a go. Unfortunately, just miscued.
Kerry with a 1-point lead. Paddy Andrews. In the 2009 game, he was cornerback. Dean Rock. It's Aidan O'Mahony hassling him and harrying him and forcing him back out the field. Paul Mannion. A very different player physically to the one who burst onto the scene in 2013. Here's Philly McMahon. Paddy Andrews and Bernard Brogan in closest to the Kerry goal. Michael Dara McCauley. Here's one of his trademark bursts forward, but the pass wasn't trademark, it wasn't copybook. And a massive clearance, brilliant clearance from Stephen O'Brien. Kerry lead by a point. McMenamin and Connolly surround the Kerry man. It's a free to Kerry.
What a pass out of defence that time to Stephen O'Brien. O'Brien, wonderful run out to the sideline, but one of the things we've seen again and again today are some great foot passes.
Brian O'Bughley is on for Tyg Morley. That was brilliant.
David Moore, was it, who executed that pass?
It was. Yeah, there's Brian O'Bughley. Colin Cooper. Paul Murphy. Paul Gainey. Paul Gainey for Kerry, and they now lead by 2.
Well,
You just don't want this to end.
No, for sure you don't want to end. This has been a wonderful game of football today, one of the best I've seen in years. And that time Gainey just shows us again his, wonderul forward instinct. Anytime he sees the post, just has a go, and that's it.
Now the referee has spotted something off the ball. There was a foul, I think, on Diarmuid Connolly, and is it involving Peter Crowley? It'll be a free in to Dublin at the end of this, but the referee...
And it's a good call, actually, if you see Diarmuid Connolly.
That's his...
Yeah,
that's a wide, yeah, it's just outside his range.
Slightly outside his range, he forced that somewhat. It's certainly an opportunity, though, because on his day, he can at times get scores like that.
Well, Brian Sheehan was in the news this week. There was the story about him playing in goal. He's replacing Anthony Marr. But some of his comments about the 2011 final didn't go down well with some ex-Dublin players.
Yeah, and it's a marvellous substitute to bring in at this stage, because as bodies get tired, fouls become more frequent, and you have no better long-range kicker on the pitch for Kerry than Brian Sheehan.
Kerry with a 2-point lead. Shane Enright. Both management teams planning for this game for such a long time. Really, since the final last September, it always looked likely that the two would meet here on this afternoon. Kerry's build-up and how tested they were in Munster and in the All-Ireland quarter-final was called into question. Paul Gainey. Oh, brilliant. Here's James O'Donoghue. They've got a free man, O'Bughley, inside, but O'Donoghue doesn't need him. And Kerry stretch out their lead. 11 minutes to go, and it's Kerry leading by 3.
Great score from O'Donoghue that time, difficult angle, but wonderful, wonderful, wonderful spade work.